Hello, everyone. Good evening. We are late, and I think maybe the dog needs to not be on your lap.
Poor little dog. He likes being on the lap.
Tonight, we are talking about flying changes. We're talking about 30 days to round. We're talking about what else? I have a list.
We're not talking to the dog, apparently.
We're talking about our new guest speaker. We're talking about my troubleshooting lecture. And we have lots coming up. So give us a big hello if you are here. I see Stacy is here. Hi, Stacy. Kate is here. Hello, Kate. Messi is here. He's helping us out. If you're listening to the podcast, Messi always likes to join in and sit on her mom's lap and lick him in the eyes. I don't know why, but he really likes to lick your eyeballs.
And then he gnaws your eyebrows.
Anyways, interesting.
Gnaws your eyebrows.
So we're going to be talking a little bit about flying changes because there's a flying changes webinar on Sunday, which I hope you all can come to. Make sure to RSVP.
Those flying changes are tricky, though, aren't they?
They're tricky. So when did you first learn flying changes?
I don't know, it was in my 20s.
On which horse?
A horse named Condor. I was working for Hilda Gurney at the time.
And you said they were hard for you to learn.
Yeah, but my timing was a mess. And everything has to be right at that right moment. You got to get it all set up.
Yeah.
You got to get it set up and then apply the aid at the right time.
Yeah. And it's like I
found it quite difficult.
The preparation is so important. So I'm working on my horse Mick right now, who we're going to be doing a new YouTube series on Mick, which is launching soon. But he's a little bit tricky in the flying changes because he has this really big expressive canter, but it's not always through or supple.
Supple and through. Yeah, those are the two things.
And so I was riding. I took him for a lesson with Sabine this week, and she, one of the prerequisites for flying changes is counter canter, right? And so I was doing some counter canter in the warm up to kind of get him ready before we started working on the changes. And she said to me, she was like, you're still kind of in that phase of just surviving counter canter. In second level where you're just stay in the lead. And
where you overbend them and make sure they don't swap out as you come through.
And
not that I've ever done that.
You before you start working on the changes, you actually have to be able to start to change the positioning in the horse's body, to start kind of counter bending them in the counter canter before you ask for the flying change.
Right. You've got to be able to canter left with right bend,
which is really hard to do. And especially with Mick. So on his right lead canter, she was having me think about riding Ron Bear left to get him set up. And that was going to be really key to helping the change right to left. So that may have just gone over some of your guys' heads. Make sure that you come to the webinar on Sunday because I'm going to break it down a little more simple than that and help you understand the aids for the flying change and also the right steps because every horse can do a change.
Oh yeah. And I've had this question more than once. Well, what are the leads for counter canter?
What are the aids?
Well, yeah, what are the aids for counter canter? And I'm pretty sure I look like the Exorcist in my head, but what? Because it's only if you're going left in right lead canter, your body is still in right lead canter.
But it can get so confusing because I remember when Sue was trying to teach me the aid for the flying change, and she was talking about the new outside rein and the old outside rein and the new inside leg and I was just
it's a lot.
It's very confusing. But I also want you all to know that it's possible. And when you start taking the steps and when you really understand the prerequisites that you need and kind of the system to teach your horse to do the flying changes, then any horse can learn how to do them. It's just a matter of laying the right foundation, like anything.
It's a system.
Yeah, it's a system. But
until you know the system, it's the Hogwarts school of horseback riding.
Yeah. But a lot of horses and riders get stuck at second level because they can't teach the changes. And I always feel like that's a shame because you can. And it's been interesting throughout my career, I've ridden with a lot of different trainers from all over the world, like some of the best trainers in the world. And they all seem to have a different exercise, a different
teach
system.
the change, yeah.
Which I think is cool, because then you have to kind of figure out what works for your horse, because every horse is a little different. Like some of them, they're all crooked differently, or some of them are hot, or some of them are late, or some of them. Remember when you were teaching Q the changes and he would just stand on his head?
He had history. They had tried to teach him the changes by having him go across the arena and then at the center line hit him with a lunge whip.
Oh, that's a great system.
And so there were some issues with Q that I had to overcome, solve. The Q was great.
Yeah, don't try to teach your horse to do the changes that way. It's not the recommended method.
So yeah, he'd plant his front feet, and I looked like my favorite Martian. I saw it in the mirror. I could see the hind legs growing right out of the back of my head, and I was like, "Oh, well, huh."
Yeah.
We got through it. Oh, and then I was riding with Charlotte Bradal once, and you know how the half pass is similar to the flying change, Abe?
Yeah.
And so she goes, "Okay, let's see the half pass." And we were at her place in Santa Barbara, and he ran out of the arena down the road. And she goes, "It seems like you got into some history there." he just left.
Yeah.
And that's why teaching them bad things is just really bad.
But that's also why, if you're having trouble with the changes, just going and like trying to do it again and again and again across the diagonal is not going to work. That's one of the secrets I share in the webinar, is that on the diagonal is kind of the worst place to teach the changes, and you need to get a lot more creative about
space and use of that space.
But so I worked with a trainer named Morton Thompson, and he used to come here in clinic a lot. He's Denmark?
Yeah, he's Danish.
Yeah. And I really enjoyed working with Morton, because he was very into like the horses, how they think and how they process, and finding a way to really help the horse understand what you want. And he had like some fascinating ideas about.
He was terrific. And for those of you following at home, his latest, he was on 2 Danish teams, but his latest claim to fame is he was helping Jessica von Brindle.
Yeah. But I remember one time Morton, there was a horse that was changing late behind, and so he was like, we can't just keep asking for the change over and over again, because the horse doesn't understand the cue, obviously. Like the horse doesn't associate the cue with bringing the hind leg through. And so he had Sue canter on a 20-meter circle and try to get the horse to cross canter, like to just change leads behind. Which is like, how the heck do you get a horse to do that, But it was just so interesting. And that's one thing that I really try to do in my training, is try to figure out how you can get your horse to understand what you want, because they'll always do what you want. If they're not doing it. If they
understand and they're safe, they'll do it.
Yeah.
They just don't understand, or they're scared.
Right. And so that's a lot of the time with the flying changes, is that you have to find a way to explain it to your horse and to get the timing right.
Well, yeah, it's easier to learn how to get the timing on the horse that already knew how. So,
okay, so there's a few questions from our Stride students about flying changes. Oh, by the way, if you're in Strides, I got Sabine to do a guest lecture for us. That's going to be next Tuesday. So make sure to post any questions that you have in the Facebook group. For Strides, what I'm kind of thinking is, so for those of you who don't know, Sabine Shoot-Carey is an Olympian. She was, what do they call that? The anchor rider for our bronze medal in Tokyo, which was 20.
We got the team
silver.
We were looking at bronze, and then
Sabine got us the silver.
The British rider, and I'm drawing a blank, she had a mistake, and so her score went down and we moved up.
Anyways, so Sabine's horse Sanseo, it was actually pretty cool, because Sabine trained Sanseo. She got him as a 3-year-old and trained him all the way up herself.
Oh yeah. And she ended up 5th in the individual.
Yeah. And she was in our area. Do you remember that one El Sueño show where she was doing like training level or something, and you read for her on Sanseo?
Oh yeah, and I
Yeah.
read for her when she was doing the young horse stuff at Flint Ridge. And
Yeah. So it was really cool to see her like develop that partnership. And Sabine is a very good rider. I think her specialty is really in like the correct basics and the connection. Like she has such a nice way with the horses. So I'm looking forward to hearing.
Yeah, she brings up a lot of young horses in the right way.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to hearing about her experience at the Tokyo Olympics, because that was also COVID. And it was like first of all, traveling to Tokyo with a horse is like
That's far.
Right. Then it's COVID. So I think a lot of like you couldn't bring like your family or your spouse or whatever couldn't come. And I know that was hard for a lot of riders.
Yeah.
And then so I'm curious to hear about that whole experience from her. And then I'm also going to be asking her, Stacey's like, I don't know enough to ask. Definitely asking her training questions, because she's a really good trainer, a really good rider. And I would say she focuses a ton on the basics. Having now ridden with her some over the last couple months, that's like everything is the basics. So wouldn't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Tuesday night. All right, let's say I answer the questions from Stride students. So first question is from Esther. How do you mentally stay prepared for the rider during this exhausting process of teaching the flying changes?
How do you stay mentally prepared? What?
How does the rider stay mentally prepared?
Oh, you just kept thinking about how much fun horseback riding is.
Okay.
Right? You put a smile on your face, and it's the joy of riding, so that you don't. I mean, that's why I don't get too much in my head. If I get up in my head, that's just a bad place to be.
And it goes back to what I just said about the basics. Like if you're having a problem with the flying changes, try to figure out what in the basic work is missing, because there's always something that you need to go back to and fix. It could be rhythm, straightness, supple. I should go through the training scale. It could be rhythm. It could be suppleness. It could be connection. It could be impulsion. It could be straightness. It could be collection.
And so, you do your flying change, and it does whatever it does. And so then you back it down. You go, okay, can I ride a counter canter? Can I ride right lead canter and be bent left? Can I make canter walk transitions? And those things that are the prerequisites, if those aren't happening, well, you get to work on those.
Okay, here is a good question from Jennifer. She says, if a horse is good at one of the flying change prep exercises, for example, counter canter, but not good at another one, like simple changes, what information does that tell you? And how do you focus your training plan with that knowledge? That's a good question.
So if the walk canter transitions aren't working, the horse isn't taking enough weight back. It's not sitting enough. There's not enough engagement.
Yeah.
So you've got the balance, because you can make counter canter. So the balance is okay, but what's lacking is the engagement. So exercises that work on engagement, 10-meter circles,
rubber band,
the rubber band, the come back.
Yeah.
And obviously canter walk transitions. But one of the exercises to teach the canter to the walk is on a 20-meter circle. You go in the canter, and then you bring it back, and you almost walk, and then you canter on again. And then you bring it back, and you almost walk, but then you canter on again.
Yeah.
And then you bring it almost back, and then you do walk.
Yeah. But and I know Jennifer's horse, so you're definitely right with that, because Jennifer's horse is like, he's very balanced and soft in the canter, but he's a little bit long and not active enough behind, and a little bit on the forehand. So he can easily counter canter around without really like being active enough and sitting enough. So that's why we have all the prerequisites that you need to go through. But that's also where it's tricky, with all of these horses, they're a little different. And so you need to have a system, but then you have to know how to adapt the system to suit your horse's need. And that's one thing that, for those of you who are in Strides or Training Scale Masterclass, where we have the video review,
we can help you.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
And I love that part of it because I love being able to see you on your horse and then give you that direct feedback. Like, okay, here's the exercise, but focus on this, given your horse's needs. You had office hours this week. How
Yeah,
are you?
well, some of the horses I get to see again and again, and
Yeah.
you can see the light bulb go off for the riders, and when they get it, and they're like, "Oh, we did this thing last time, and this was great."
Yeah.
And well, this thing isn't now, but that's part of learning. You get some things better, some things worse. You fix it, whatever. You just keep going. But it's just to see the excitement when the people figure it out.
Yeah. And it's interesting.
And let's not get crazy. I'm trying to figure it out still too. I mean, I know what I know, but there's still an ocean of stuff I don't know.
What was that text that you sent me about the type of learning that it is?
Those of you who are
Did
really
I put you on the spot?
No, it's header. I don't know how to pronounce it. So find the text. It's heterogery.
Like
It's
where you learn
self-directed. Find the text. It's self-directed learning.
I think you sent it to me on WhatsApp.
I did send it to you on WhatsApp.
But
Come on,
anyways,
good. Let's go, guys. You're all in the chat.
Okay. What type of learning is it? Oh, here you say, okay. Hugh Heutagoggy. Heutagoggy, which is self-determined learning,
which is what you guys are all doing.
An educational approach that empowers learners to take complete control of their learning process, deciding what to learn, how to learn, and how to assess their progress. Unlike pedagogy.
Right, that's for children, but I sent you the other one that's for adults. There it is, adult.
Emphasizes the learner's autonomy, capability development. Yeah, so it's, with the online programs, it is a little bit more where we give you a curriculum and a system and a lot of information, and then you kind of go out and figure out what works for you and your horse, and then come back with questions. And I think it's an interesting way. Lessons are, of course, awesome and valuable, but this is also a way where you become a little bit more responsible and involved in the learning process.
Well, Pajaski calls a thinking rider, and that's what we all want to teach is people who are independent, that can get out and ride their horse and not need us. That's the dream. And I just didn't know it was possible any other way than the way I learned it, which was they sit in the chair, they correct you, you get the feeling, you do it again the next day.
See, I learned a little differently from Larry. That's the cowboy that I worked with, who actually just passed away this month. But he was tough. And so he would observe you. And it was always nerve-wracking because you knew he was watching you. And you'd be riding around, and then he'd be like, come here. And then you'd stand there, and he would you'd have a little pep talk about this is what you're doing wrong. You need to fix this. And then you'd have to go out and work at it on your own. And it was, again, it was different than a lesson where it's do this, do this, do this. It was more, you knew he was always watching you. And then he would, give you that little talk.
Yeah. Butch was telling me this story because he rode with Ray Hunt. Well, he knew Tom Dorrance too, but he rode with Ray Hunt. And he said Ray would always run up to him and go, where's the inside hind? Where's the inside hind? Because you have to feel where the horse's legs are.
Yeah.
Where's the inside hind? Stacy, to answer your question.
Read the question.
Okay, so if your horse offers them without you knowingly asking for the change, is it safe to assume that they will be easy to teach? The horse has already been taught to change. That's why he's offering it to you when you change your position. It isn't. The question there is it going to be easier to learn? Yes, but the thing is that your position has to be clearer about I'm on left lead. I'm asking for left lead. I'm asking for left lead. I'm asking for left lead. Now I'm asking for right. But if you're sloppy in your seat, then the horse misunderstands your sloppiness for the aid. So it isn't that they need to be taught to change, Because if they're giving you the change, they already know it.
All right. Last question is from Lisa. I'm working on collected canter to prepare for the flying changes. And because my horse has trouble going from canter to walk, but now she anticipates the collected canter and won't go forward. We've all been there, where they just collect, and won't go anymore.
Or yeah, and then like you want to go to the walk, and
Yeah.
they just canter on the spot, and you're like, come on, let's walk. No, they don't try. Yeah.
I think she means more that the horse gets stuck in the collected canter. So remember that if your horse is sucked back in a collection, it's not true collection. For those of you who took training scale masterclass, collection is active, quick, rebalancing. It's nothing about slowing down.
And then getting stuck.
So the second your horse feels stuck, you have to go out of it. You have to go into like medium canter and then come back to it, because otherwise it's not true collection.
And so if you're getting stuck when you're practicing, let's say that exercise I said on the circle about coming back, you need to think, come back, but already go forward sooner than you are so that you don't get stuck. And so the horse learns go and come back, go and come back. You don't want to take it all the way back and the horse gets stuck, because then the horse thinks that's what you asked for.
Okay, we had one more question from our 30-day to round student. And she was asking, this is actually one that you can all type in the chat. How often do you ride / how often should you ride?
Huh.
Like how often should you ride your one horse?
I ride my one horse 5 or 6 days a week.
Yeah, I would say usually 5. And then it depends, but you need to be consistent enough. Like consistency is really key. So the more consistent that you are, the safer you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be. And then also your horse is a creature of habit. So the more your horse is like, oh yeah, I get ridden every day. That's part of my routine. But I know that some of you can't ride that much. Okay, Gina's 5 to 6, Stacy 5 to 6. Okay, you guys are doing great. That's awesome. But there's also, I know some of you can't ride as much. Like maybe you have a lesson horse, or you just work gets in the way. You only ride 2-3 days a week. Then what's important is that you do things in between, like for your fitness and for your learning, and also that you make sure that your horse gets out enough. Like you don't want to just leave your horse in a stall all the time. They really need to get out and move. They
don't need to go galloping around or anything, but they do need to move.
Yeah, but horses need to have some freedom. We can't confine them all the time. They need to be able to kick their heels up and buck around, So especially if you only ride 2 or 3 days a week, then make sure that your horse has plenty of time out, and or that someone in between is riding your horse or exercising your horse. Okay, there was one interesting question from RJ. What do you do when a trainer tells you to do something blatantly wrong? Do you stop or do you say something? Definitely don't say something. I think, well, here's the thing. First of all, if you need a little bit like vet your trainer and trust them, like I always like to go and watch a clinician first, or watch a YouTube video, or at least have an idea of how they ride. Do I like how their horses are going? Do I like how they teach? So that you're not just going and riding with someone that you don't respect. Because once you're in a lesson situation, you a little bit need to kind of shut up and try to listen to what they're saying. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. And so that's, the vetting beforehand, because you just don't want to have to be in that situation.
Yeah. And then, I mean,
at that point, I mean, if you're there, then, let your conscience be your guide. It's the horse is first and foremost.
Yeah. And so, yeah,
I've never been in that situation. Luckily enough, I've never had to be in that situation.
Yeah. I mean, there was one time that I was with a clinic and a horse, and it was too much for the horse. And it was like hind leg, more hind leg, like just so much like pushing and pushing and pushing. And I should have stopped and been like, hey, like this is too much for my horse. because he ended up like really sore after the clinic, and it really set me back, and it was kind of stupid. And I knew in my gut that I was like, this is just too much pressure. This just isn't working. But usually I try to like trust what the clinician is saying, try to do what they're telling me to do, so long as I feel like it's safe and okay for me and my horse. And then I go home, and sometimes I pick and choose, like, I liked that. That was a good idea. Oh, I don't know, that exercise, it didn't really click. But that's also part of lessons, is they push you a little out of your comfort zone. They get you to try something different, which is important.
Right. And you take what you like and you leave the rest. Nobody has all of it.
Yeah.
And
let's face it, we're humans. I was teaching the other day, I was working on flying changes with a student, and I got my left and right mixed up. And I was telling her the wrong hand to, like, the wrong rein to hold and the wrong lead to switch on. And I was like, oh my gosh, so it does happen to us where we get mixed up with left and right, because sometimes you're like, it's hard to perceive it. You know what I mean? Like if
right,
they're
if
coming,
you're facing at you and your left is on,
right. So sometimes certainly we mess up as trainers. And I do think, you don't want to stop in that moment. But for example, at a walk break, you could ask for clarification, like, hey, like, I'm a little confused. Could you explain what you meant by that? Because I'm not really sure. And I think that's totally welcome. At least for me, I'm always happy to explain it to someone, but it's hard to teach someone that is blocking. Like, you want to come to your lesson in a frame of mind of like openness and willingness.
Yeah.
You don't want to come to a lesson like, this isn't going to work, I know how to do it, because then it's like, what's the point of that? So, all right.
It reminded me that you said that. I watched a lesson where the rider came up and just stopped and said, listen, I disagree. And and they had this conversation, they explained and back and forth, and then they didn't do that anymore, and they moved on, they did something else, and then that person never showed back up at the barn again.
I mean, I will admit that sometimes, especially when you're working with a new pair, sometimes you might start an exercise or like go down a road, and then as a trainer you're like, let's take a step back, like that's not quite the right approach for this horse. But that's also, I think we all go through that with our horses.
Yeah, no, I've misread the tea leaves.
Yeah.
You see something and you go down, and then it makes it worse, and you go, oh boy, that didn't work for that horse. Let's do something else.
Yeah.
I mean, you take your best shot.
Yeah. And
then based on new information, you might come up with a new plan.
Yeah. So anyways, good job to all of you in 30 Days to Round. Let's see, this week we had the bend lecture, which hopefully you enjoyed. I thought it was a good one. Next week, the lecture is on troubleshooting and problem solving. So if you're having any problems, make sure to post them in the Facebook group, because I'm going to be working on that presentation over the weekend. And we are going to take the dog to the dog park. It is getting dark so early.
Wait till next month, and the time change for us. It's
like already dark at 7 o'clock, which makes me very sad, because I like the long days in the summer. So
yes, more fish.
Anyways,
I think we lost Kate though.
All right.
Kate had a big what when we were talking about cantering left on right bend. So
yeah.
Hey, come on Sunday. What are we doing Sunday?
Flying Changes webinar.
Flying Changes webinar.
All right. Have a good evening.